Hey guys, Jeremiah with Steps Pressure Washing and More. I want to talk to you guys about 5 things you're going to want to do if you want to launch this spring. Right now we're about mid-February and the phone is just starting to ring again a little more consistently than it did in December and January. Even early February, this was actually a pretty dry month for us as far as customer calls. So now that it's actually starting to roll back in, it's very noticeable. I know a lot of guys really are going to want to start in the springtime so they're able to get as much capital built up to survive that summer slump and then to make it through their first winter. But I think that right now is the best time. You got to get started like right now, like today, if you want to launch this spring. And if you've never started a business before, you may not know that. So you kind of have to get the ball rolling a little bit before you start your business if you want to do it right and have a legitimate business. So here are the 5 things I think you should do like this week to go ahead and start getting ready for your spring launch. All right, number 1, you need an LLC or something similar. So I know that there's advantages of an S Corp and there are disadvantages of S Corps. For me, LLC was the way I wanted to go because I'm just a sole proprietor. There's only one person who's on the list as far as business owners. So it's just much easier and much more affordable to file for an LLC, and that has served me well for years. Another thing that this will do is it's actually going to go ahead and get you your name. So for me, I know that Steps Pressure Washing and More is our name. And once I knew that was our name, I could go ahead and start paying for things like the print advertising. I could get our website. I knew that, Steps Pressure Washing. Well, we have stepwash.com. So if I put out there for an LLC and somehow Steps Pressure Washing and More was already taken, I could have been, I could have said Jeremiah's Pressure Washing and More and see if that was taken. And then I might have done jeremiahwash.com or whatever it might be. But I would say go ahead and get that LLC started now because kind of everything else is going to come after that. So one reason why I would say getting an LLC is important to do at first or filing for an S Corp is because it shows legitimacy to any business or customer that you're going to be doing business with. It does put a layer of liability between you and the customer or you and the company. So if the company goes out of business, it doesn't necessarily mean that you go bankrupt as well. And that's something that I know that a lot of people don't want to think about when they're starting is what's going to happen when this business is over. Well, you are still responsible for the debt if you take on any for the business, but there is a layer of protection there where it's a separate entity than just you. Another thing that you can do with an LLC is you can file for an employer identification number with the IRS. What this is it is basically like the company's social security number without being the company's, like you don't have to put your social security number on every W-9 that you send out while trying to get a bid for a company in Virginia that you've never met anybody, and it's just going to go into a filing cabinet and you don't know how secure that filing cabinet is. So if your company's employer identification number is on there instead of your social security number, it again adds a little bit of protection from you. Also, having an employer identification number allows you to open a business bank account as a separate entity than yourself. It also allows, showing a little bit more of a professional image to contractors or companies that you're trying to bid on projects. They see that you have an employer identification number. They don't think you're just fly-by-night or, chucking a truck, which, a lot of us are still chucking a truck in a lot of ways, but it shows a little bit more of a legitimacy, and I highly recommend doing that LLC. Number 2, I would recommend going ahead and doing is, but while you're waiting on that LLC to come back, go ahead and start calling around, going online and getting quotes for insurance for your business. And this doesn't necessarily mean you have to purchase the insurance right now. While you're waiting for that LLC to be approved, you can go ahead and start looking for insurance quotes. Have everything on that end ready to go before you ever wash a house or concrete or whatever you're going to be going into. Go ahead and have an insurance quote so that the second that you are ready to go wash a house, You call up that insurance company and say, yes, let's go ahead and take that quote and make it into a policy. I'm going to start tomorrow. This also helps you with budgeting, but we're going to get into that in just a moment. Number 3. Okay, so now hopefully you've got your LLC back and ready to go. You know what your name's going to be. So you can go ahead and do all those things that you were waiting on the name for. So number 3 is going to be get your website ready to go and get your print marketing going. So now you need to start thinking about advertising, not necessarily advertising, in the end of February, but you need to start thinking about what are you going to be advertising in April? What are you going to be advertising in May? Where are those supplies going to come from? And so first thing you want to do is go ahead and get your website ready to go. That way you have your domain name. So for us, we use stepwash.com. That way we can go ahead and put stepwash.com on all of our business cards. We can put it on our flyers. We can put it on our signs. We can go ahead and start making Facebook, get your socials ready to go. So Facebook, Instagram, Yelp, Google My Business, anything and everything, Google Maps, you can get it out there. You want to go ahead and get that done now, because this adds another layer of legitimacy. When somebody gets that flyer and they see you have a website, they go on the website and it looks like a professional business. It doesn't have to be anything flashy or expensive, professionally made by somebody. If you have the funds for that, cool. But if you can just do a cheap website that, it ends in .com, not, at GoDaddy.com. You don't necessarily want to do a free website, but definitely do something that looks professional that ends in .com. So, yourname.com or whatever your fun website name is. Then you can go ahead and get your print marketing ordered, because again, print marketing is not like overnight. I mean, you can pay extra to get expedited shipping, but a lot of times, when I did my first order with a company, it would take a couple weeks to go ahead and get that stuff ready to go, because they had to make the design, they had to run it through their system, put me in the queue. I don't know actually what all goes into print marketing, because I'm not in the print marketing business. I use print marketing to get word out about our pressure washing business. So I know that my first round of signs and flyers took a lot longer than my second round, because I'm using the same designs and I'm just reordering what I know works. So I'm going to put a link in the description below for UZ Marketing. They're actually who we use for all of our print marketing. So we use them for our yard signs, we use them for our flyers, banners. I know they started making uniforms as well. We actually are still using our Queensboro uniforms, so I'm not really looking to expand into that. But when I am looking for some new uniforms, I'm definitely going to be checking them out, because I think that they do a great job. All of our stuff we get is high quality, it's at a great price, and they get it to me pretty fast. So definitely recommend checking out UZ Marketing. If you are ready to launch this spring, that grassroots marketing is going to go a long way. Number 4. Okay, so this one is something that I'm actually really passionate about. It is the financials of your business. So before you even get your business rolling and off the ground, you want to have a budget. You have to have some sort of groundwork set of, this is how much money I want to make, this is how much we're going to need to pay expenses, then this is how much we're going to charge. So I'll put a link in the description below as well for a budgeting video I made a couple months ago, and I think that really it's the roadmap of your business. So I know there's a lot that's going on right now, especially if you're trying to get everything ready to go, and you got to learn the equipment, you got to learn the marketing, you've got to figure out how you're going to get customers. There's the legal aspect of like creating a new entity, and the insurance and liability and all of that stuff you got to worry about. But really, at the end of the day, we're starting a business to be profitable if possible. And so the biggest thing for that is knowing, how much money needs to come in for this much money to go out and this much money to be left over. And so I highly recommend making a budget that you're able to use and adjust throughout the year. So I use Google Sheets. It's, I have an Android phone. It's free for my phone, and I just go in and I make a spreadsheet. And I think there's even a budget on there that you can adjust and make your own. One of the biggest things in your first year having a budget is you have no idea how much stuff's going to cost. So you kind of have to make a guesstimate when you get started, this is how much I think it's going to cost in, supplies and equipment, gas for the pressure washer, sodium hypochlorite, repairs, uniforms, monthly insurance. If you have a truck payment, a loan payment, hopefully you don't have a loan for your business. I think that that's kind of counterintuitive, is paying interest, but that's your decision, not mine. And I think that, having that budget to at least where you can say, I have this much money coming in, this much money going out, this much money is going to be left over for me. And you can kind of go in the reverse of that too, where you say, I need this much money to be left for me. And in order to do that, I need to make this number. Because I know that if I'm charging, $200 per house on average, and then I have, $67 worth of expenses per house between, marketing and supplies and equipment and insurance and the phone bill and everything else that's going to go into running your business. So what's 200 minus 67 is $133. So I'm going to have $133 per house left over at the end of the day, and then I'm going to take 25% or 30% or whatever you're taking out for taxes. You're going to set that aside, and you've got your whole budget ready to go. Now, when you get started, even when you're doing practice houses, which I'm going to talk about here in a moment, you're going to be able to say, okay, so I just used 3 gallons of SH mixed down into, my mix tank or mix bucket or whatever you're using to wash that house. So, if I'm saying for a house wash, I'm using about 1.5 gallons of SH per 1,000 square feet I'm washing. So then you can kind of start to take that into account too, of now I know that if I'm going to be averaging a 2,000 square foot house, doing 10 of those a week, and I'm making, a certain amount of money, which is my end goal, I'm going to have to use, 30 gallons of SH per week. Well, here it's about $5 a gallon for SH. It's actually, I think, a little lower than that, but we'll say $5 a gallon for SH. Well, that's $150 a week that you have to account for. And so if you're able to break down how much you're using with your machine, your operation, your mix on your houses, because sometimes that house doesn't come clean the first time. You've got to rewash that north side. That way you make sure you're leaving the best product possible. Well, you're going to use a little bit more than me if I'm going around and I'm just washing it once. So you kind of have to figure out what your system uses and then start adjusting that budget as you go. So I highly recommend making a yearly, a quarterly, a monthly, and even weekly budgets. That way you're able to know how much you have to spend this month, and if you don't make the money and you don't have the revenue that you were expecting, you can go ahead and start paring down your expenses before the month's over. That way you're still able to make your budget goals. Number 5. So number 5, we have, it's silly that this is the last thing on my list, but I would say in my order, if I were to start a pressure washing business this spring, and it's mid-February now, I would definitely say equipment is number 5 for me. I want to go ahead and have the entire business part of this ready to rock and roll before I go out and spend any money on equipment. So for equipment, I would recommend going with at least a 4-gallon per minute machine, preferably belt drive or gear drive, and that's something I didn't know when I bought my direct drive, was you kind of are stuck without a buffer tank. Now, I did add a gravity-fed buffer tank this year, and it's worked great so far, but I think that for safety reasons, if I was getting started, I would not have put so much strain on my original pump if I had a buffer tank and I was able to let off the trigger from time to time, and I was able to start the engine with my hose already pulled around the house and ready to rock and roll, rather than holding the trigger on the pressure washer, allowing the water to flow through as I pulled the cord. And there's a lot of things that I think that the buffer tank is just absolutely great for, and highly, highly, highly recommend getting a gear drive or belt driven to start with. Then you want to start calling all your friends, all your family, all your neighbors, anybody you can, and say, hey, I'm starting a pressure washing business. you know, I need a house to practice on. Do you need your house washed? I would do it for free. Or you could say, I'll do it for expenses. So maybe they pay you $30 so you can buy the SH and you can, you know, put gas in your pressure washer while you are practicing on their house or your house. If you have one, that would be even better. That way the liability is all on you either way. But definitely have your insurance. This is where that insurance needs to come in before you wash anything. So before you go to your parents' house or grandma's house or aunt and uncle or, you know, your sibling or neighbor or whoever you're going to be washing for, go ahead and have that insurance ready to go. Because I know a lot of folks are like, well, I'm going to go ahead and get some house washes under my belt and then make a little money. And then once I have that money, I'm going to use that money to buy insurance with. And that's a little bit of backward thinking. It's putting the cart before the horse, because you're more likely to damage stuff your first year in business because you don't have the knowledge yet and you haven't experienced certain types of woods and concretes and stuff like that. So definitely make sure you have insurance before you wash anything, even if it's for free. Also, once you're doing your practice washes, you're able to start measuring how much SH are you using per house, how much gas are you using per house, and how long it takes you to wash a house. Do keep in mind that your first house wash is going to take you a lot longer than your 50th house wash, just because you're going to be a lot more familiar with your equipment. You're going to be familiar with, you know, a routine where you go ahead and pull the hoses out while you talk to the customer, your buffer tank is filling up. Whatever your process is going to be, you're going to find out along the way. And this is just kind of, you're going to get used to your equipment before you start selling your service. And that's very important as well. You want to be able to show up to your first job with the confidence and knowledge that you're going to be able to wash the house, you're going to be able to do it safely, and you're going to be able to have a good finished product before you leave, and the customer will be satisfied with it. Now, I guarantee you there's going to be a lot of customers that are going to stand outside and watch you wash their home. There's going to be customers that will be looking out the window and seeing how you behave while you're washing. And it will come across very clear if you don't know what you're doing, or if you're watching YouTube videos on how, you know, step by step how to soft wash a house while you're soft washing house. So make sure you have that knowledge, you've got that practice. Someone will let you wash their house if you offer to do it for free. And I think that practicing is the number one thing. I spent a long time, probably close to 18 months, studying the different equipment, I was doing research online and watching YouTube videos and going through a forum called pressurewashingresource.com and learning about the different types of detergents and nozzles and equipment that other professional pressure washers use. And then I would look them up and price check them and see what all they did and kind of work together my rig over about 18 months before I finally pulled the trigger and filed for the LLC. And I filed for an LLC in August of 2020, and we weren't even planning on launching until the spring of 2021. So I definitely wanted to make sure that I had everything in place. I had my flyers already ordered, my website was live, my insurance was lined up, my yard signs, all 6 of them, because I didn't understand the importance of marketing at the time. I actually spent most of my startup revenue or startup capital on equipment and didn't spend nearly enough on marketing, which is for a different video. But yeah, those are the 5 things that I would say. Get your LLC, get your insurance lined up, get your website and print marketing ready to go. Remember that UZ marketing just in the description below. Get your budget ready, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're knowing where the money is going in and out every single month and every single week. And practice with your equipment so that you know that you're giving that professional service that they're paying for when you show up. Alright, I hope this video was helpful and or informative for some of you guys. If you enjoyed it, or you would like for, you know, some other content, I'd be more than happy to answer some questions, maybe do a video on, you know, something you're looking to know more about. But drop me a comment down below, and if you did enjoy it, just let me know, and if you want me to do a video on something else, let me know that too. Alright, you guys be safe out there.